Enuanom ni adofo. Nyoma bi ekoso aman mu a ti yemi ano ne yanka. Eji gon a yankasa. Nti etwa se yeka. Na yema omampanyin soso neni eba ne ho so ewo saa nyoma yi. Na ohwe kan obefa so a odi besi ano kwan. Edikan ha yentitu eye gold board in semsem na anu ya IMF4 article 4 program yom release busumi ya eka ana edi adansidie bebre efim abasede na minority ni kenyina efa gold board ho se losses bebre ekoso wo ho a esesa aban twa ne ni hwe no se na eye no kre wo hwe Bank of Ghana broni beka so monkunta bu omu bu for 2025 a ye friend financial statements no Bank of Ghana ka se sika omode bu a gold board ye ejuma omo bo ho ka no eye $214 million. Eno enkoda nchen aka na mienu na afe no abewiye no aban so sign ma gold board 4.5 billion Ghana cedis yenkote ne yenkohwa se na $214 million na Bank of Ghana ka se eye ka omo bo wo gold board no IMF say entisa crampo na ye 1.7 billion Ghana cedis, which is equivalent to 22 billion Ghana cedis. Menuam anese for any teacher for mugu fi mo pese ye fam adwuma. Me kai say minister ne kan say oni sika 6 billion no case of finances ni nyina sisi about 6 billion. Na sa sika ni bi eni ho. Ye de be finances no. Na mo ye 22 billion de e wo kwa ye de be boka ye nya so ensihu bia. Nanso se mo na sisi na nka ye fa mo a 6 billion yi ye di kan unemployment a epeja ni mu adu 30% no na nka megidi se annual brass ne etoso mienu mo ba be ye adwuma na mo so metua mo to abroni ka ne se income taxes ama aban nti 6 billion ye se aban ato atwene o na nka obenya ho mfaso nanso 22 billion ye fa ne se ye ka wabo a ontimi nti wo bebia ye bisa ye ho se ana say ene etena se edibu omai edi run company ana company ba kope o ya bo ho ka 22 billion ye toso menu sa 22 billion ni mra ye ba ban mu 2017 2018 na ye banking hihye no banking crisis no 22 billion ya bi ne edi tua customers 1.2 million na omusika eden akoloke wo bank na banks ni ntimi tua omka 1.2 million customers ene edi tua omka na so ba akofo ejuma ba akope ya bo ho ka 22 billion na sa ban ka se oni 6 billion or the best finances ejuma ana oni sika ama minister of education kra ka se oni di onya ye obefa mo ejuma mu na so clearance na be tie sika aban e de ka niswade hu no won so befa nkofo ho no eni ho sebe sa sika we nyina 22 billion ni ye de ama ba akofo e ma ye den ye ntimi ente ho emfa so na so ye de e why mu kakra de ma Ministry of Education ka say ye teacher fo ya wo fie a ye mfa amu yi ye se 40,000 teachers wo fie a ye mfa amu yi mutiti se nanka ya femu dodo na enemu ye adwuma na mo so nyemu ye adwuma keke o nanso mo so mu tia eto through mu income taxes e ma ban den enye bi mo san so enye sika mu di bi beto nyoma didwa na mu di didwa aban so gigi a ogigi friend revenue no in the form of VAT any excise duty no eno so be konkan Minuanum na anu ya minister ne de media budget review no eba parliament ye nya ehu ye emma ne kasa ye nto ade a enye omusem no mabo no mo ka ho asem VAT akofom VAT aban ye ntimi emiti ni VAT target for half year excise duty taxes eno so akofom aban ye ntimi emiti nti nye omanu keke no mo de ka numbers ni na di adanse ye se ye nto ade wo krom ye nto ade wo krom because sika eni krom aban spend it the right places na se obakofo pe company baako pe udi 22 billion ehun faso bia ensan emma e de mom na ehwe asese ya sebe sika ne ebi be wahi na yetimi di aiden e de edidwuma foforo e be boa ama mpuntuo ani broni be ka se economy be ebe sachira na nkofo ato ade nye maame no so omudidwa no so omso eden omenye sika ni bi e de ahwe omba eno na ye ka se President Mahama yesrew twaweni ko gold board na hwe nyoma ekoso wo ho esanse wa na wo ka kire yen mi bi atwem afi 2025 say entities ana aban companies na enya ade no wo behwe ni esese o meji so ombo mmodi o be meji om ni esese uyi free ho kro ombo mmodi nso a wo be den wo be ye ne saa nti yesrew ni abai die menye hwe han twawoni na be hwe gold board basema making mejidi se utie na supemu a na so wo muaye bi a wo be kire wadwen na mu enye eye na ebeboa ama 1.7 billion dollars loss akọ enye eye na 22 billion Ghana cedis na ene aye kasei ahwe form enye eye no na be ma na ba na mu cheche ye mu kwan ye fa so e ba ya ye gidi se bibi wo esese ye boa na usi ano a ye be ye ne sa ni etwa to okra ne se hwe parliament budget ne ba ha ya approve ministry department and agency bi obi ade nti ye kire wo se ministry of education ye be ma no teku ministry of health ye be ma no simpoa obi ade ye kire nanso ene wo be hwe obi ade obi ani ho a agency bi ani ministry bi ani ho a ne budget a parliament approve ye din man 100% agi gold board pe aka na mienu we de anyame na me kan ye ye penny order gold board ano e no kan say aka na mienu roni be ka say 48 hours na afi no akwa ewiye no e na ban transfer sika 4.5 billion Ghana cedis e bia me ntimi nkan no ba e bia be pepe 4.5 billion Ghana cedis na ban e de ma gold board ubisa say Ministry of Education a free SHS no ahen ne de ma no Ministry of Interior say recruiting police prison officers fire officers and immigration officers no ahen ne de ma ye 100% of our budget ana Ministry of Nkukwo Nkiti agric wo hwe kura na agric ne agric minister no ni PA challenge deputy minister ne say o minister ka so ma me sika sei nanso enye no krese sa sika no e no de ma me o ma me 1.1 na mo so see ma me 1.6 billion show ministry a carry out policy na obakofo pe ya ma 4.5 billion Ghana cedis aka na mienu na afe no akọ awieye yes President Mahama say ontwa nani na omra no ombehwe na afe so ne ha me ne ya ayam hyehye baako ene se ejuma bia na ekuo bia se wo ye ejuma ema obi a eyese.
Why did you execute Afrifa? He was retired, he was in his village. What did he do wrong?
It might interest you to know that Afrifa was being provocative, and I had him locked up. And he wasn't feeling too good. So I said, they should send him to the hospital. And after he recovered, I remember very well, and the gentleman who was keeping an eye on him was called Dennis. He was also in Achimota School, 1 or 2 years ahead of me. He was with intelligence machinery then, that he had recovered. He's okay now. What do we? I said, let him go home. And yet, later, had to be brought back. You see what I mean? One evening, I don't know if it was the evening before the departures had to take place. I went.
You mean the executions?
Correct. I went to see a respectable general of ours. In fact, someone who just had a close, what you call it? He just escaped, being hurt, also being killed on that June 4th day. A man whose life was saved because I held him in very high regard. So I went to show him the list. I was in a very heavy mood. I remember where he sat, and I sat on, what do they call it, a couch. Those leather things people rest their feet on.
Yeah, leather puff.
Correct. And looking away from him. And I'd given the list to him. And I was very, very heavy. I'm saying I couldn't hold back the tears. because we had tried everything to prevent it. The executions of the commanders. Yeah, after about 2 minutes or so, I heard him behind me ask, "And where's the rogue? Where's the rogue? The rogue's name is not on the list." So, I mean, this shocked me a little.
And did you know who he was talking about?
No. So I turned towards him, expecting him to say who he meant by that rogue. Because here you are, trying to prevent a situation with such a list. For him to be asking to an additional name, a name that was also not on the list, took me aback a little, you know. But I turned towards him and looking towards him. And yeah, so I was looking at him like, whose name is it? Who's the person? When he said Afrifa, General Afrifa. So I'm still looking at him. Like, he will have to say more. And what did he say? He said Afrifa had been advanced a good load of money to wage a campaign against Champong's union government. Yes, at that time, I mean, things were pretty hot. And instead of using that money for that purpose, the money, incidentally, you know, as he said, came from an establishment within an organization in the West. I don't want to say the name now. And yeah, and instead of using that money to wage that campaign against the Champong, he used it, according to the general, to edge out, what's his name, Mr. Pawili, who I believe was the leader of the UNC at that time.
Correct.
He edged out Pawili and took over the leadership of that party. I cannot recall, I wasn't too much into the politics of those days, but that's what he said. Whether it happened or not, I don't know. Oh, well, in politics, I guess that could be sinful enough, I guess. So I kept quiet, collected the list, and went away and did what I had to do.
So did he add the name? Or did he ask you to then add the name?
It was obvious that his name would have to be added.
Okay.
Because we would have to make some serious sacrifices. And the guiltier you are, the easier it could be. And here you had a list of innocent good people as well who would have to die to save hundreds.
And this person was a general?
Sure.
Is he alive?
Yes. Yes.
Is he still your friend?
Oh, no. You must have, you know, in a way I was a little naive also around that time. It wasn't until later that I saw through what he did. What he said could very well have been true. However, I think he wanted that man out of the way, out of the way, because he felt, you know, upstaged by General Afrifa by virtue of the 66 coup. Until then, he thought he was a rising star, you know, the point man for Western intelligence organizations. And now, the 66 coup haven't happened. I guess he's the one they are dealing with. And and not him who he thought was more qualified.
So, but you took his word then?
Oh, I used to hold him in such high esteem. You know, some other interest. On one occasion, I was sitting with a major friend of mine when we were discussing the move that had to be made, especially the one pertaining to dropping the bomb on Acheampong. And in my conversation with this major friend of mine, or was he a captain then? What did he say? No, I said, you know, Acheampong in a way had corrupted so many good officers and, you know, pushed out some of the other good ones, the senior ones. So I was saying that this general, for instance, is one of the good ones who could be brought back if or when General Akufo takes over, to assist him, you know, in terms of bringing on board efficient, disciplined people. He was one. And this captain friend of mine, it was in the evening in his corridor. What did he say? No, we don't need such holier than thou characters. This shocked me a little because he belonged to a certain tribe, just like he did, and I belong to also another tribe. But he said, no, we don't need such holier than thou characters. And I'm saying that I was shocked because when again could you need holier than thou characters? At this particular point in time, when so much had been corrupted, personalities corrupted, and we know the climate is created, there are not many left. And here's a very competent person you could bring on board, and you're telling me, holier than thou. I mean, who's compromised himself to such a point that you find a holier than thou character, you know, intimidating? What were you going to ask?
So I was going to ask whether this person, is it still the general or this is another person?
Oh, no, it's that same general.
Same general.
He's a survivor. He's a survivor. The number of attempts he made on my life, yeah, and a few things. Read my book when it comes out.
Okay, we're looking forward to it.
I hope you'll be alive to read it. Oof. No, I'll stop here.
Okay. So, if I can conclude on that, so if it wasn't for this general, Afrifa would not have been on the list.
No.
And so Afrifa's name on the list was not your preference.
No, I don't think. No, when we compiled the list, none of us had him in mind. I told you what had happened. He wasn't too well. You know, I had him detained and sent to the hospital. When he recovered, I told Dennis to send him home. You know, Afrifa was not part of it. But when you hold such a general in awe, you're just a young officer, you know, thrust into a situation like this, and people have to go, you know, and he tells you something like this, he would know. Yeah. And it's not illogical.
Right. Do you regret it?
No comments yet.
Nnuanom ni adofo nyoma bi ekọ so aman mu a tie mi ano ne yanka eje gon a ye yankasa nti etwa se ye ka na ye ma omampanyin soso nani eba ne ho so e wo saa nyoma yi na ohwe kan obefa so a odi besi ano kwan edikan ha ye ntitu ye gold board in semsem na anu ya IMF 4 article 4 program yom release busumi ya eka ana de adansedie bebre efi mu abase de na minority ni kenyina efa gold board ho se losses bebre ekoso wo ho a esesa aban twa nani hwe no se na eye no kre wo hwe Bank of Ghana broni beka so mon kuntabu mu bu for 2025 a ye friend financial statements no Bank of Ghana ka se sika omode bu a gold board ye ejuma a omobo ho ka no eye $214 million eno enkoda nchen aka na mienu na afe no abewiye no aban so sign ma gold board 4.5 billion Ghana cedis yenkoti ne yenkohwa say na $214 million na Bank of Ghana ka say eye ka omobo wo gold board no IMF say entisa crampo na ye 1.7 billion Ghana cedis which is equivalent to 22 billion Ghana cedis menuam anesefo ene teacherfo a mugu fi a mo pese ye fam adwuma me kai say minister ne ka say oni sika 6 billion no case of finances ni nyina say about 6 billion na sa sika ni bi eni ho a ye de be finances no na mo ye 22 billion de e wo kwa ye de be boka a ye nya so ensihu bia na nso se mo na sisi na nka ye fa mo a 6 billion yi ye di kan unemployment a e pagya ni mu adu 30% no na nka megidi se anua brass ne etoso mienu mu ba be ye adwuma na mo so metua moto abroni ka ne se income taxes ama aban inti 6 billion ye se aban ato atwe o na nka obenya ho mfaso na nso 22 billion ye fa ne se ye ka wabo a ontimi nti wo bebia ye bisa ye ho se ana say ene etena se edibu oman edi run company ana company ba akopɛ o ya bo ho ka 22 billion ye toso me sa 22 billion ni mra ye ba aban mu 2017 2018 na ye banking hyehyɛ no banking crisis no 22 billion ya bi ne edi tua customers 1.2 million na omusika eden akɔlɔki wo bank na banks ni ntimi tua omuka 1.2 million customers ene edi tua omuka na so ba akofo ejuma ba akopɛ ya bo ho ka 22 billion na sa aban ka se oni 6 billion or the best finances ejuma ana oni sika ama Minister of Education kra ka say oni di onya ye obefa mu ejuma mu na so clearance na be kire sika aban e de ka niswade hu no won so befa nkofo ho no eni ho sebe sa sika we nyina 22 billion ni ye de ama obakofo e ma ye den ye ntimi ente ho emfaso na so ye de e why mu kakra de ma Ministry of Education ka say ye teacherfo ya wo fi a ye mfa mu yi yes 40,000 teachers e wo fie a ye mfa mu yi migidi se nanka ya femu dodo na a enemu ye adwuma na mo so nyemu ye adwuma keke o na nso mo so mu tia eto through mu income taxes e ma ban eden enye bi mo san so enye sika mu di bi beto nyom edidwa na mu di didwa aban so gigi a ogigi e friend revenue no in the form of VAT any excise duty no eno so be konkan menuanom na anu ya minister ne de media budget review no eba parliament ye nya ehu ye emma ne kasa ye nto ade a enye omusem no mabo no mo ka ho asem VAT akofom VAT aban ye ntimi emiti ni VAT target for half year excise duty taxes eno so akofom aban ye ntimi emiti ntinye o ma no keke no mo de ka numbers ni na di adanse ye ye nto ade wo krom because sika eni krom aban spend what the right places na se obakofo pe company ba akopɛ udi 22 billion a ehun faso bia ensan emma e de mom na ehwe asese ya sebe sika ne ebi be wahin na yetimi di aiden e de edidwuma foforo ebeboa ama mpuntuo ani broni be ka se economy be ebe sachira na nkofo ato ade ye maame num so omudidwa no so omso eden omenye sika ni bi e de ahwe omumba eno na ye ka se president Mahama ye srew twa weni ko gold board na hwe nioma a ekoso wo ho esan se wa na wo ka kire yen mi bi atwem afi 2025 say entities ana aban companies na enya ade no wo be hwe ni esese o maji so mo mbo mmodi o be maji o ni esese wo yi free ho kro mo mbo mmodi nso a wo be den wo be ye ne saa nti yesrew ni abai die menye hwe han twaweni na be hwe gold board basema making migidi se utie na supemu a na so wo muaye bi a wo be kire wadwen na mu enye eye na ebeboa ama 1.7 billion dollars loss no akọ enye eye na 22 billion Ghana cedis na ene aye kasei ahwe from enye eye no na be ma na ba na mu cheche ye mu kwan ye fa so e ba ya ye gidi se bibi wo ha sese ye boa na osi ano a ye be ye ne sa ni etwa to okra ne se hwe parliament budget ne ba ha ya approve ministry department and agency bi obi ade nti ye kire wo se ministry of education ye be ma no teku ministry of health ye be ma no simpoa obi ade ye kire nanso enne wo be hwe obi ade obi ani ho a agency bi ani ministry bi ani ho a the budget a parliament approve ye didn't man 100% agi gold board pe aka na mienu we de anyame na meka ye ye penny order gold board ano e no kan say aka na mienu broni beka say 48 hours na afi no akwa ewie ye no e na aban transfer sika 4.5 billion Ghana cedis e bia me ntimi nka no ba e bia be pepe 4.5 billion Ghana cedis na aban e de ma gold board ubisa say Ministry of Education free SHS no aheni e de ma no Ministry of Interior say recruiting police prison officers fire officers and immigration officers no aheni e de mo ye 100% of our budget ana Ministry of Nkukwo Nketi agric wo hwe kura na agric ne agric minister no ni PA challenge deputy minister ne say o minister ka so ma misika say nanso enye no krese sa sika no e no de ma me o ma me 1.1 na mo so see mama 1.6 billion show ministry carry out policy na obakofo pe ya ma 4.5 billion Ghana cedis aka na mienu na afe no akọ awieye yes President Mahama say ontwa neni na omra no ombehwe na afe so ne ha me ne ya ayam hyehye baako ene se ejuma bia na ekuo bia se wo ye ejuma ema obi a eyese we ejuma na wo ye no eye finchim meka say eye finchima eye transparent utimi account for it percent yetie wo hwe ya Bank of Ghana report it no 2025 financial statements and say loss omu make wo gold board no $214 million IMF say enye sa na $1.7 billion mi bisa accounting firm na audit Bank of Ghana no difference of 1.4 billion no eba ne sen omo ehu ana omo hu yom de share hifa omo mra esan say we die broni beka say their credibility is on the line. We want to know how they treated the difference, no, a little over 1.4 billion, no? Such as recorded 240 million loss per instead of the 1.7 billion loss, no. Omumra no mbe kanchen because we die eya asefem na ya yam hye say ya audit your financial statements about one thing. A Bank of Ghana nhwehwe mu na hu say there be the mwaka say 240 million dollars no entesa na 1.7 billion. Timesre accounting firm na audit Bank of Ghana so say omumra no mbe cheche mu we nya Bank of Ghana nko asem so mo de ka ho bi no mo cheche mu kwan ye fa so a 1.4 billion no omehu anaso mu hu ya de share he e financial systems omuma ye hu because ye ejuma we ye ya mo man no se bibia ebe ye fenchi bibia be ye krojin se ye baako e Ghana saa na IMF so hu se ye baako ye mienu wo Ghana saa na IMF no hu se ye mienu na enye 214 e Ghana losses no 214 na IMF ekohu ya say 1.7 billion ye besre ye pomani yi ye pomani kanko Ghana for ato abama mwene NDC for 2/3 of the parliamentary caucus yes remo moma ehumra mfaso e Ghana for anything yes President Mahama say onhwehwe sa nyuma we nyiremu no mmoa yen na bebi eda no ye mfa nto bebi wo ho esese yesi ho kwan a yetimi esi ho kwan na de esi say 1.7 billion at eye 22 billion Ghana cedis ke betimi dia fa a teacher for ne nurse for a ene a omutifie ye betimi assign so gibi achechire ne ye dia boa agenda 111 na ma ye wie hospitals na ma yare sabia ene aban a etwemu ene na adodan kwa kufu ado aban PP government no ebe ye ya esi ho se sikeni ho sika na gold board a ye 22 billion emo a ye ntimi nte ho ka ebiom nanso nanke ye de ye hospital ejuma sebe ye nyanom ko hospital mu tua eto no se besan aba aban sem sebe ye de farm ofrey ye nurses ne ye teacher for ya ananka omu wie a ye di kan no aban unemployment rate na eso bete ne toso mienu so
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Good Evening Ghana. It's always a pleasure to come your way. Thank you very much. Tonight, where is the 1 million United States dollars? We are going to thoroughly analyze the U.S. court case. A trial by jury in America has convicted Asante Beku, a Ghanaian and an American. What did Asante Beku do? Asante Beku has been convicted for allegedly, well, it's no longer alleged because there's a conviction. He's been convicted for paying out 1 million United States dollars to yet to be named Ghanaian officials. Everyone points to the power minister because his credentials or his office was mentioned in the trial and in what went before the jury. Well, Dr. Kwabena Donkor has issued a statement denying that he ever met Asante Beku. Is Kwabena Donkor thereby pointing us to other people? The Attorney General has said that he has worked with them and he is going to investigate. Office of the Special Prosecutor has also issued a statement that they have been working with the American FBI and they are also going to proceed. But the confusing matter is that Kwabena Donkor is a member of parliament for NDC at the time. He was Minister for Power. The committee in parliament was led by an NDC member of parliament for Medina. The committee's ranking member was our good friend Katie Hammond. Katie Hammond was also a member of parliament at the time. Kwabena Donkor hires Katie Hammond to be his lawyer on this matter. It will suggest that Kwabena Donkor is confident that Katie Hammond has personal knowledge of the fact that he was innocent and therefore he'll be very comfortable being his lawyer. But if Kwabena Donkor is innocent as he wants us to believe, who then is guilty? We have to unravel that, and tonight we have a lot to share with you on that matter. That's our big story coming in. Also, we have another story coming in. We have many other stories coming in as well. So we have the Asante Beku matter. We're going to be discussing it in some detail. And everything else that has been happening in Ghana. You know everything else that has been happening in Ghana. We will do that. We're just putting our documents together in a better way so that you can see it and putting some colors together. We had a small hitch at the beginning of the program, but we are okay now to start. So let's take a short break. We don't want to start and get the break interrupting us. Let's take a short break as we remind you that in politics, the New Patriotic Party this weekend goes almost in every region to complete the election of its regional executives. We'll show you how the contest in the Ashanti region is shaping up. The hotbed of the New Patriotic Party philosophy is going to be boiling this weekend as candidates prepare the last-minute ditch message for delegates to elect them into executive positions to fight election 2028 with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. We'll be keeping an eye on that as well and tell you what's happening in Greater Accra region where Dr. Okoboy is in the saddle. We'll tell you what's happening in Ashanti where Koka and Kokofu are heading into the final. We'll tell you what's happening in Northern region, Eastern region, etc., etc. Stay tuned with us. After the break, we'll start rolling in a big way. This is Good Evening Ghana and it's live.
And there they are. The squad is ready, lined up, ice cold, focused and prepared for national duty. Every bottle in position, every label shining with confidence. And here comes the selection. One bottle steps forward, picked from the squad, ready to deliver for Ghana. He takes the first sip. Oh yes, refreshingly hydrating. The whistle goes. The Black Stars are on the move. He breaks through the defense like flowing water. Beautiful control. He lines it up. He strikes. Goal! Ghana is awake. From the fridge to the field, Awake keeps you refreshed. Awake purified drinking water. One for life. Proudly supporting the National Cardiothoracic Center. This advert is FDA approved.
Mommy, good morning.
Good morning, my son. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Mom. How about you?
I'm fine.
So, I just saw your mom doing her usual morning routine. Like, it was just 2 weeks she underwent a major colon surgery.
Bro, see, my mom is doing perfectly fine, and we're all excited about it. It was minimally invasive surgery, and the recovery has been very fast.
Minimally? Hey! No, wait. What do you mean by that?
So they offered my mom a laparoscopic colon surgery. Laparoscopic colon surgery, which we accepted. It turned out it was equally safe with a very fast recovery time, and the cost involved too was very, very reasonable. She was discharged 3 days after the surgery, and you can see her, she's on her feet again.
3 days?
Just 3 days, bro.
Mean Tuber Hospital, first Ghana colorectal center, aimed to serve a peculiar health need.
Finding my dream apartment in just 2 days was a breeze with 7terragh.com. Looking for your next home, the perfect piece of land, or the best commercial property for your business? Are you worried about sending money home for property and finding nothing when you return? Well, worry no more. 7terragh.com is just a platform to find prime lands, perfect properties, or vibrant real estate development at the click of a button. 7terragh.com is your go-to property listing platform that allows you to register, list, rent, buy or sell, and connect with correct agents. With our AI-powered smart search, personalized dashboards, verified agent connection, and interactive property maps, all your property needs have been made easier. Check us out on 7terragh.com or contact us on 0302-998-246 or 0561-032-252. 7terragh.com, powered by MNC Properties.
In my line of work, a confident smile is everything. Kel Charcoal Toothpaste keeps me on top of my game and ensures my smile is always radiant and bright.
With the tiring nature of my job, we spend several hours under the scorching sun. To keep our teeth white and our breath fresh all the time, we use none other than Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. You're on a Kessie and in a kit one.
Samayo Kendini, who be here, Semetra Sapapadia to Amame Manfo, Kel Charcoal's natural ingredients, and a bomb is so by a maniswing, Nesansu Mama Hotoso, a bedroom.
Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Choose Kel Charcoal Toothpaste for anti-cavity, whiter teeth, and fresher breath all day. Available in 80 gram and 150 gram. Grab yours today.
Kel, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
This is the old way. Let me show you a new and a better way. EduPack.
EduPack?
Yes, EduPack. A GS approved and supported initiative for all first year students going to SHS by Prospectus Ghana Limited. Now you don't need to go to the market. All your trunks, mattresses, pillows, including plastic chalkboards, are all waiting for your child at the school. Note, all our wooden chalkboards are being changed to plastic ones to avoid bedbugs.
You can also register by dialing *713*821# following the prompts, or you can visit www.edupackgh.com and tap register. You can also register at any ADB branch near you at a very affordable price. EduPack, approved and supported by GES.
Can he tee up someone in red?
I be the real goat, Chairman. What's the real goat?
Who is the goat? Ghana Jollof or Nigerian Jollof?
You are lying. Ghana Jollof.
We are talking about BET. Let's be the goat, huh? My guy, he be the goat.
Though our choice of goats may differ in football, music, and jollof, Alomo Bitters always brings us together. Alomo, experience greatness in every moment.
Proudly produced by Casa Preco PLC. Drink responsibly. Not for sale to persons under 18 years. Not recommended for pregnant women and lactating mothers. Don't drink and drive. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, my name is Paul Adomochiri. I'm the host of Good Evening Ghana here on Metro TV. I'm inviting you to the Clean Conferences at the City Conference Center at the University of Ghana. We have to make Ghana clean. and Metro TV is leading this agenda with Original FM. Everyone will be there. Please join us and let's make Ghana clean. So we have a first day of talking, and then we go on the field and actually show how to clean. The Chief of Staff will be leading that effort, Honorable Julius Deborah. He will be there with us to help us to show how to clean. We know how to clean. Join us to clean. The history of the PNDC rule in Ghana cannot be told without the mention of the public tribunal system. The tribunal system was the main platform on which cases of a criminal nature were tried, and sometimes cases involving political opponents. This system was used, and many feel that it was actually overused and sometimes abused during the PNDC era. Under the Fourth Republic, the Consultative Assembly, which drew the 1992 Constitution, managed to keep the public tribunals in the Constitution by Article 142, which established the public tribunals, and Article 143, which grants jurisdiction to the public tribunals to try matters on so-called public interest. However, all the presidents and parliaments of the Fourth Republic have refused to apply the public tribunal system in Article 142 and 143. First, J.J. Rawlings, who presided over the PNDC, refused to apply it during his two-term presidency. John Agyekum Kufuor, who visited the public tribunals and became president for 2 terms, also refused to apply it. Professor John Evans Atta Mills and President Mahama's first term also both refused to do it. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who has historically been against the public tribunals, also expectedly refused to do it. But on 17th July 2026, the 9th Parliament of the Fourth Republic passed a bill to bring the public tribunals into being. Soon after the bill was passed, some members of civil society, and especially the former vice president, who is also the presidential candidate of the opposition MPP, have called on President Mahama not to accent the bill.
I speak to you on a matter that has the potential to reshape our justice delivery system, confidence in our judiciary, and the future of our democracy altogether. The attempt to reintroduce tribunals into Ghana's judicial system. Last week, Parliament passed the Tribunals Bill 2026. The mandatory one-day interval between the consideration stage and the third reading was waived so that the bill could be passed on the same day. The minority's objections were voted down. Organized labor objected loudly and publicly, but was ignored. The bill will soon be transmitted to the President for his assent. I have one respectful request of President Mahama. Mr. President, do not assent to this bill. Pause and let the nation ponder and deliberate on this very important matter. This is not a partisan request. The Trades Union Congress, the voice of millions of Ghanaian workers, has called for the bill to be withdrawn altogether, warning that in its current form, it could become a potent tool for weaponizing justice delivery.
This documentary will now give you a good view of how the public tribunal system looked like. You can now see journalist Ben Efson covering proceedings in the public tribunal system. Here is John Ajekum Kufuor, Kakra Isamoah, who used to be with the MPP but now the NDC, and lawyer John Indebogere, as well as Dr. Kwame Safwedu, a former presidential candidate of the NPP, and of course, former Attorney General, Madame Gloria Ekufu. Here is the scene as crowds cheer whilst accused persons, the late Professor Edu Boahen and journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. are brought in to answer their charges. Here is Professor Edu Boahen's opening statement.
I believe this same court was to invite me here to give evidence as a witness. And as the charge seeking the issue, I refuse on that basis. And if I'm brought in the same way, now accused, place me how I can resist, so I cannot speak. For the reasons which I set out in my letter to the chair of the National Tribunal, I do not accept the authority of this tribunal. I stand by the terms of my letter. Indeed, the present situation of terms is strength of my allegations that these tribunals are instruments for the persecution of political opponents of the PNPC government. It is well known, both the government and the security agencies, that I had no connection whatsoever with the bomb throwing incident.
Kwesi Pratt also mounted the stage in classic fashion, and this was 1992, 34 years ago.
I can't report a tribunal. Sir, the greatest is said, don't let us come to the boss before the task. As we explained to the professor, when we are 3 years, it's based on procedure and law. And we just don't do things at random.
Now, the second one is that I am deeply convinced that the state is not interested in the enforcement of law generally in this country. And that will have been brought before this court because you are opponents of the government and the government wants to use its issues to be legitimized. And there is evidence to that effect. PNDC members are committed murder because any murder, which is a gruesome crime, goes unpunished in this country. Because you know that the person is associated with the PNDC. And there's a case in 1983 where a PNDC member picked up a rifle and shot 6 people dead. The case was reported to the chairman of PNDC and he did not find guilty to enforce the law. Now, why is the state interested in enforcing the law when it comes to a simple question of obstruction of the traffic? When panel members of the tribunal themselves have publicly admitted that the state is government interference in the affairs of the tribunal.
About the panel that tries cases in the tribunal, this is how it works. The tribunal often has 3 members, with only one of them being a lawyer. Here is a video example of how the public tribunal system used to work in those days.
In relation to his client, application is granted. PW10 is recalled at the instance of prosecution in terms of their application. Full reasons for this shall be embodied in the final judgment in the case. PW10 is recalled.
Maybe Dr. Bawumia has a case in asking President Mahama to abandon this course.
The answer to congested courts is to strengthen the courts, more judges, more courtrooms, and digitized processes. It is not to build a second system of justice. Mr. President, your government commands one of the largest majorities in the history of the Fourth Republic. With such numbers, Parliament can pass almost any bill it wishes. Not everything that can be passed should be passed. The larger the majority, the greater the duty of restraint.
But also, recently, pollster Musa Dankwa has conducted a poll in which he says many Ghanaians are expecting the public tribunals to work and that many Ghanaians are happy about the return of the public tribunal. What do you think?
Samana mana watiwa, samana mana watiwa, samana mana
Okay, welcome back to the show. It's 10 minutes, is it 8 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we have enough to start our news stories tonight. Asante Beko is a former managing director of Tema Oil Refinery. He was appointed to replace Mr. Isaac Osei. One of the MPP legends from Ashanti is Mr. Isaac Osei, who was also former Ghana High Commissioner in the United Kingdom and at some point Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board. Isaac Osei was removed from Tema Oil Refinery and was replaced by Asante Beko during the Akufo-Addo era. Not long had Asante Beko taken his seat that news came in that he was being investigated by American legal authorities, and they were investigating his activities prior to the Akufo-Addo administration, and it was suspected that Asante Beko had paid bribes to Ghanaian officials in 2015 and 2016. The trial somehow went into abeyance. We don't know what happened. We didn't hear anything about it. But boom, just this week, news came in that Asante Beko had been convicted upon a criminal trial which was handled by a jury. We will later understand tonight what is the difference between a jury trial and a non-jury trial when Preku joins us on the touch screen. Now, Asante Beko's conviction has brought to light many things about corruption in the energy sector, or if you like, the power sector in Ghana. In those days, Ghana had a split energy ministry. We had the Minister for Energy, which was today's Minister for Land, Mr. Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, Member of Parliament for Elembele, was the Minister for Energy. And Dr. Kwabena Donko was the Minister for Power. So power issues went to power and energy issues went to energy. President Mahamad's administration convinced Ghanaians that because of the power crisis that had engulfed the country between 2014 and 2016, it was necessary to have a specific focus for power. The power sector, the power ministry, by and large, recruited a lot of power supplies for Ghana. AXA, AKSA from Turkey, was one of those companies that was that was brought in to deliver emergency power to the country. In those days, the political argument, which was led by Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, was that Ghana did not have a power insufficiency. What Ghana had was a financial crisis, for which reason we're experiencing the doom. So that argument went back and forth until 2016 or perhaps 2017 when Akufo-Addo took over. The court in America said and concluded with evidence that Asante Beko had actually paid bribes amounting to about $1 million United States dollars to Ghanaian officials to obtain the contract. In America, they have something they called Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Now, the American government frowns on foreign corrupt practices as perpetrated by American citizens outside the United States of America, and it largely includes paying bribes to officials for securing any contract. Some of the older viewers or those who are better acquainted with the news in that sector will remember that in 2009-2010, another investigation was conducted into the EO Group. It was reported to the American authorities that Eduse and his partners at the EO Group, who had obtained a percentage from the Jubilee fields under the Tullow Oil arrangement, had paid bribes to the Kufuor administration. Eduse will tell you that after 50,000 emails of investigation, they were all cleared of these allegations. So the American government takes it very seriously when it finds that an American citizen has apparently paid bribes to obtain a contract elsewhere. These were the charges that were leveled against Asante Beko, to which he succumbed after a jury verdict. What is left now is that Ghanaians are asking, if Asante Beko paid bribes to Ghanaian officials in 2015 and 2016, what has happened to those officials? Before we could wake up this morning, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who was Minister for Power at the time, and whose appointment was largely mentioned in the trial, and whose description as KD was also mentioned in the trial, told everyone, including myself, I phoned him up on, I believe, Saturday morning, because I know him quite well. I phoned him up and asked him about these things, and he had reiterated his position that he had said earlier when the case first started, that he knows nothing about it. Well, eventually, social media publications came with other people who had spoken to Kwabena Donkor as well, saying that Kwabena Donkor said that he's innocent. Now, though, Kwabena Donkor has taken his innocent fight to another level. He has hired lawyers to put out a statement, and we'll be discussing that statement. The interesting thing, though, is that Kwabena Donkor, who is a member of parliament for NDC, has hired an MPP, former member of parliament, Katie Hammond, who is very well known to main media, social media, and the political class. Katie Hammond has issued a statement that we're going to look at. But the question we are going to try and resolve tonight is, assuming that Kwabena Donkor is truly innocent, then who took the money? And some names are coming up. Hold on to that story. We're going to get there in a minute. But first, let's jump onto the touchscreen, mount it, and tell you a story about something that is also happening in Ghana. Behind me on the touchscreen, you will find the photograph of the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. Usually when we put these photographs up, some of our NDC friends are not happy. They begin to worry about what we are going to say and what we are not going to say. But we're going to have a conversation about the third term agenda. Johnson Asiedu Nketia has issued a statement that I cannot agree with, and so we're going to analyze it. Give us 10 minutes to tell you this political story, and then we get to the Asante Beko, because there we are putting evidence together, so we have to sort of put it together and show it to you on the touchscreen. You know that whatever we do here is always true, so we always want to keep that standard. Now, the story starts from here. During an interview on Sunday morning, the interview that we all woke up to, Johnson Asiedu Nketia had granted an interview to a radio station, I believe in the Bono Ahafo region, and he had said in that interview, he had bemoaned a certain situation in that interview. Asiedu Nketia was worried that currently in the NDC party, there is emerging two groups of people, those who support the third term agenda and those who are against the third term agenda. Asiedu Nketia said to the interview that if you are against third term agenda in the NDC today, you are thought to be an opponent of President John Dramani Mahama. And if you are in favor of the third term agenda today, you are thought to be an ally of President John Dramani Mahama. And he bemoaned this process and said that it was creating a lot of problem. He also said that this was being created by members of the New Patriotic Party who are piling pressure on the government and who are insisting that something has to be said. We can count at least 3 occasions where President John Dramani Mahama has indicated that he's not interested in a third term agenda. However, there's an application before the Supreme Court inviting an interpretation of Article 66, 3 and 4, which actually limits the term to 2 terms. There's all kinds of interpretation that are being put on it. It looks like it's very straightforward, but we have to wait for what the courts will do. But more importantly, there's another group in Ashanti region that have risen up, and they have held a press conference, and they are calling on President John Dramani Mahama to continue with his third term agenda. To continue with a third term, to seek a third term, I should say, and be president for a longer period, because they are worried that the NDC perhaps is not finding anyone else. Given all what we know about Johnson Asiedu Nketia's interest in the presidential tickets for the NDC, this interview was particularly telling. Asiedu Nketia spoke in Akan in the first interview on Sunday morning, but then the next day on Monday, or I think 2 days later on Monday, he appeared on Joy FM's PM Express, and it was hosted on that occasion by Evans Mensah, the seasoned journalist at Joy FM. And again, Asiedu Nketia reiterated the same position, but in the English interview on Joy FM, Asiedu Nketia accepted that he doesn't rule it out that he will seek the mandate of the NDC to become his leader. First, Let's listen to Asiedu Nketia complaining about the third term. Then we'll come to the touchscreen and analyze it. Have a look at this video, viewers.
I've always said that I have a problem with the way the debate about third term or not a third term is going.
Okay.
Because you don't focus on one individual in making a law. If you do that, you make a mistake. You see, the underlying principle is about whether the nation should remove term limits or to hold on to our constitutional term limits for presidents. It's not about President Mahama. So I get offended when people narrow it down to an extent that when anybody says he's for third term, that, oh, he likes John Mahama. When he's against third term, oh, he doesn't like John Mahama. We are being too simplistic. Why? Previously, we didn't have presidential term limits. This was introduced as a means of ensuring that we can institute power alternation in the country.
Okay, so for the party chairman of the NDC to grant this interview back-to-back on an Akan radio and a English radio, it suggests that it's a matter that really worries him and he's taking it very seriously. We had done some analysis here the other day to show that it was not about NPP, and we went back to show it. You can watch that on social media because we quoted from Professor Kwame Nkrumah's book and Obeda Samuel's book and our own book. We'll talk a bit about our book tonight though, but that's a different matter. So we had done that story. Tonight, our concern is to explain to viewers where this whole third term thing is coming out. So what is the relevance of this matter? Why are people thinking about the third term? It is one of those things that we have always described here as one of the maladies of democracy. It is one of the maladies of democracy. It's very concerning to people who are in power all the time. The way the democratic arrangement has been done, you win, a presidential candidate wins one term and he's also able to win a second term. Usually it's very difficult to remove a presidential candidate when he wants a second term. It's happened all over the world. It is not impossible, but it's difficult. In fact, in Ghana, we did it in 2016. President John Dramani Mahama was in his first term. Except that President Mahama was affected by the fact that he was holding an NDC second term kind of thing. But the good thing for the NDC was that President Mahama was able to run again, and that opportunity was lost and blown away, and President Mahama lost the election in 2016. But this is what always happens. When somebody has won a first term, for the first 4 years, the party in power is united. Maybe united is not the wrong word. They work in unison. You know, they may not be united, but they work in unison because they are all working towards the presidential candidate who is the sitting president who will run again. So you don't hear anything in the midterm. Midterm is 2 years down the line. You don't hear anything in the midterm about somebody wanting to challenge the president, and that's what brings about the unison. So a President Kufuor or a President Rawlings or a President Akufo-Addo takes office and he goes through the process. He's running again. When a president is running again, usually he is able to tell the people what he has not been able to do and what he will do. He's already in the chair and he understands where his shortfalls are and he knows how to continue. Often these presidents are also vulnerable to make promises, and they also get vulnerable to rush in the last minute of the election to put things together to give the people the confidence. So the president who is running for a second term is running basically on believability, whether the people believe what he's saying, that I couldn't do this, but I'll be able to do it this time. That's fundamentally what happens in the second term. But also, and very importantly, the president runs with the system. By what I mean by the system is, we put some graphics together, but we've lost it by IT difficulties. So we don't have it, but you will see it in the video that comes out for this one. When the president is running in the second term, he's running with everyone. So if I'm chief director at the Ministry of Energy and I'm working for my boss, the minister, and my boss's president is running for a second term, I know that if the president crosses the line, all the work that we are doing, we will be able to continue. Because by the time you are ending the first term, some deals are in the middle, some are here, some are 3/4, some are 75%, some are 80%, some are 60%. You definitely need to cross to finish some of these things. And so many people want that to happen. because they are part of it. They all want to be part of history. So chief directors want the president to cross the line. Military people, military commanders who are leading the Ghana Armed Forces and leading all the other forces, they know that they all run with the president. If the president crosses the line, they will also cross the line. The most important, the police, they're all running with the president. If the president crosses the line, they cross the line. So if you are IGP at the election and the president is elected, most likely you're going to continue to be IGP for a while. Maybe the IGP has an agenda. He wants to do something for the police. All of those things will kick in, after the election. So the president who is running for a second term always has an advantage. Now, after the president wins a second term, and often you will see that the second term is won narrower than the first term victory. So Kufuor comes in 2000 with a huge majority after the second round election. In 2004, there's a reduced vote. You see that Akufo-Addo comes in with 1 million votes. In the second term, it's reduced by half. You see all that happen. Barack Obama comes in with a big vote and then it's reduced, etc., etc. So you see that happen. Now, when the president has now been elected for the second term, and he takes the oath and he swears at the Independence Square, from the day the president takes the oath, which will be his last presidential oath, the consternation, the juggling begins. Who is going to inherit the president? Because it's a democratic establishment. It's not the president's child. It's not transferring onto the offspring of the president. No, it's transferring onto that minister, deputy minister, party activist, party chairman, general secretary, whoever, who is now presenting himself as the next leader of the party. Now, that always creates a problem. It always creates some difficulties. And I'm going to show you why that is so. It creates difficulties because people are not able to work in unison. But by the time that is happening, the government has already seen 4 years of solid activity, 4 years of unison. A lot of things have been put in place that cannot be reversed. So the damage of the battle for the soul of the party, which happens in the second term, is reduced because some of the policies have been put firmly in place. So, for instance, Akufo-Addo puts in free SHS right in the first term. So by the time there's juggling over who is going to replace him, whether it's going to be Alan Kyerematen, whether it's going to be Kojo Poku, or it's going to be Kennedy or Hine Japan, or it's going to be Mahamadou Bawumia, a policy like free SHS is so well firmed up that nothing will happen to it. That's how it happens. So the fight will come all the time. I'll explain to you why that then makes the government vulnerable all the time. And then the opposition candidates are able to slip through and win the election. I explained that to you. So now, John Dramani Mahama is sworn in on 7 January 2025. And he has a 4-year term. And it is his last term, but it is his first term. So within 1.5 years, we are already beginning to hear. In fact, it was in the first year. And political commentators were complaining. Kwesi Pratt called it nauseating. That what is all this fight over who is coming after? It is very natural. We came here and said all the time that this is very natural. Nobody's going to be able to stop it. Congratulations to the NDC National Council of Elders. They managed to stop it. And it was President Mahama's efforts. He called them into a meeting and said, look, you guys need to stop this. So since that, we have seen Asiedu Nketia here. He has halted his what did he call it? Thank you tours. In fact, Asiedu Nketia's thank you tours were directly attacked by another minister, the Minister for Education, Honorable Idrisu Haruna. He directly attacked Asiedu Nketia's thank you tour. We have also seen the cessation of the Chief of Staff's exercising, which was given a connotation as preparing to be president. I don't know how, but I mean, it was given such a connotation. The Chief of Staff has also halted it. We've seen that. Now, Musa Dankwa was also guiding us to a Kesela Tuforsen inheritance. Kesela Tuforsen is the Minister for Finance, and Musa Dankwa is a pollster. And Musa Dankwa's polls were now revealing that Kesela Tuforsen is actually the candidate to watch. In certain circles, political circles, had been mentioned that Tuforsen is probably the chosen candidate of the president, etc., etc. In one of his speeches, Asiedu Nketia told the interview that he has been told by some pastors that if he is opposed to John Dramani Mahama, then President Mahama will bring Case Lato Forsen to challenge him, etc., etc. So Musa Dankwa then drew attention to that. But since the Council of Elders spoke, that has stopped. But it hasn't really stopped. It's also still going on. Now, let me make the case for those who are calling for President Mahama to run a third term. Now, those who are calling for President Mahama to run a third term, they are not just wanting NDC to be in power for a long time. No, let's be fair to them. They are thinking that if John Dramani Mahama is not on the ballot, it significantly reduces the NDC chances of winning the election. That's the point they are making. Because you see, if the president is not running, everything breaks loose. And this is a government that has been there for only 2 years. And they have not had the solidification of a first term, 4 years, where they can solidify things, positions, appointment, policy, etc., etc. All of the NDC policy is going haywire. 133 is now turned into market. What's the other thing was it? As for the Okada, we have not mentioned it in this session. Teacher training is not working. Licensure exams is not working. Almost everything that was promised was not working. Plus new problems they are having. Water shortages. Party people are complaining. Malik Basintale says that all the promises have been delivered in 1 year. Nobody wants to hear it. They go to a TN meeting and they are singing the elephant, that kind of thing. So there's quite a bit of chaos going on within the context of a united NDC. Now, those who are calling for the third term are saying that, look, if we can, it is so much better to keep John Dramani Mahama on the ballot. Let me give me the ballot paper and let me explain something to people. Now, the reason why they are saying that is that the difficulty of any ruling party that is exiting its president is about the ballot paper. Now, here is the ballot paper for 2028, viewers. There's a ballot paper for 2028. Okay, so put on the screen, let them see it. Yes, great. This is the ballot paper for 2028. Now, look at the ballot paper. Now, this ballot paper has only one candidate on it. Candidate number 1 is Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia of the New Patriotic Party. Candidate number 2 is the NDC's candidate. We don't know who it is. Candidate number 3 is Afra Franto. It's probably Alanche Martin, but we don't know who it is. Candidate number 3 is UP. Candidate number 4 is Cheddar or something. We don't know who it is. Then there's CPP as well. We don't know who all that is. So if I'm a member of any interest group, I'm a member of teachers and we are unhappy about something, I'm a member of even the forces, police, and when they are happy about something, we know that in 2028 there will be an election because we have all come to accept the 4-year term. We don't want coup d'etat, do we? No. So we've come to accept the 4-year term. If I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, who am I taking my matter to? What is going to happen in 2028? The only certainty about 2028, for us men, God decides everything. But the only certainty for men in 2028 is that Mahamudu Bawumia is on the ballot. He's already there. He's waiting for the rest to come. Are we going to wait to see who comes at NDC before we go and tell him our matter? No. We can tell Mahamudu Bawumia because he's already on the ballot. That's the problem. It will plague any ruling government. MPP went through the same problem. When MPP were jostling about whether it's going to be Alanche Martin or whether it's going to be Mahamudu Bawumia, I used to go to ministers' offices and we are arguing about it, and some people are arguing strongly as Alanche Martin. All that time these arguments were going on, John Dramani Mahama was comfortably on the ballot for 2024 already. So these NDC guys who are asking for third term are concerned that this pictorial thing is working on people's minds. NPP have made it worse by electing Mahamudu Bawumia very early. I have to say that was a master stroke, and one day we have to award the person who brought that idea. Kwabena Japan and his supporters believe that Kwabena Japan was the one who brought this idea. There are other people who think they brought the idea. But whoever brought that idea has delivered a master stroke, because this has driven home the point harder that Mahamudu Bawumia is firmly on the ballot. So if I'm a teacher today and my allowance has been messed up and we are a group of teachers and we want to complain about it, where do we go? Mahamudu Bawumia. Even if we have access to John Mahama and we go and complain to John Mahama, the sitting president today, and he can't do anything about it today, it means he can't do anything about it today and he cannot do anything about it tomorrow. Because tomorrow, John Mahama is not there. He's not on the ballot. So if you want to deal with tomorrow, you deal with Mahamudu Bawumia, who is already on the ballot. This is the problem. This is the whole third term conversation. It's about this. Now, there are MPP people who have told me that, in fact, if the third term agenda comes on, it's actually better for MPP because then they wouldn't need a campaign message. They will now rally the Ghanaian people against the NDC, that the NDC is trying to turn upside down our most cherished 1992 constitution. And that campaign message is a powerful campaign message that can win. Asiedun Ketia seems to agree with that message. That how are you going to talk about third term? How are you going to do? How are you even going to start? Nobody's going to accept it. So drop the third term. But if you drop the third term too, you are giving advantage to the one who is already on the ballot. It could be a significant advantage. If Mahamudu Bawumia and his MPP have mobilization skills, they can mobilize. We attended the demonstration last Friday. Look at the numbers that shocked everybody. The demonstration was last Thursday, yes. Look at the numbers that shocked everybody. Because this is the opposition leader. He is already on the ballot. Nothing is going to change that. He's going to be on the ballot for MPP. So you can rally behind him. This is the reason why the third term agenda is popping up very strongly. And whether President Mahama likes it or not, there's going to be incessant pressure on him to do the third term. The only people who can stop it, nip it in the bud, is the Supreme Court. Will the Supreme Court nip it in the bud, or will the Supreme Court create a situation of more anxiety? By that I mean, some lawyers are arguing that the matter before the Supreme Court is moot. Nobody has said he's going to run a third term. So the Supreme Court is likely to say that they are not a court of theory. They are not an academic institution. They don't do things that are yet to happen. Let somebody take the form, come to them and say somebody is violating Article 66, and then they can rule on it. If the Supreme Court were to give that kind of ruling, it opens up the door. It gives more room for new groups to be formed. Mahama third term in Bono Ahafo, Mahama third term in Ashanti, which has already started, Mahama third term in Greater Accra region. And there's going to be incessant pressure on President Mahama, whether he likes it or not, to consider this, because those people are thinking that if you don't do that, you are probably going to lose the election to the opposition. So we have gone into our chambers, and we are going to share with you here at the end of this story. Hold on, Asante Beko's story is coming very strong. But here we're going to show you, where do these NDC members stand on a third term for President John Mahama. And we are going to use green, the tick green, to show you those who support a third term. We're going to use yellow to show you those who are neutral and we think are undecided. And we're going to use red to show you those who are against. So let's start with the green. They're going to put a green there. Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, excellent. Yes, there you go. So for the green, we have the following. Now, these are the NDC key decision makers that we believe have sworn to John Mahama. It's not about whether they like the third term or not. Whatever John Mahama wants to do, they will support him. They will support him until it ends. They will support him until the court stops them. They will support him until the Ghanaian people say they don't want it. These are the people I've put on the screen. It's your frontline fighters for the third term if John Mahama wants to do it. First is Defense Minister Eric Ejay. He's green. If John Mahama wants to go a third term, he can count on Eric Ejay 1,000%. Eric Ejay will always be there. Stanislav Dogbe, Deputy Chief of Staff. If John Mahama is running a third term, he can count on Stan Dogbe 5,000%. Stan Dogbe will be there. Julius Debra. If John Mahama wants to run a third term, he can count on his Chief of Staff. Julius Debra will stop everything he's doing. He will stop the athletics, stop the walking, stop everything he's doing, and he'll follow John Mahama for the third term. Now, who do we have here? I see somebody like Jantua, but I'm not sure who it is. Kofi Jantua is not a member of the government. Why is his photograph in there? Okay, so forget about this one. This is Elvis Efrie Ankara. I can tell you, my last bottom dollar, that if John Mahama wants to do a third term, he's going to have a straight green from Elvis Efrie Ankara. He's going to support him to the hilt. Deputy Attorney General Justice Sremsai is just another of those who are going to support John Mahama if the president decides to run a third term. Case Olato Forsen will be in the saddle as well. These are the top 11. John Mahama is the coach for the third term. Sam Nate George of communication, for sure. He will support John Mahama if John Mahama wants to do a third term. And then you have the Greater Accra Regional Minister. It's the only regional minister we added that he also will support the agenda for a third term. I'm sure there's a wrong photograph of somebody they were putting in. Jantwa is not a minister or a deputy minister. Okay, let's move to the yellow. Oh, more green. Sorry. There's more green. I have here Emmanuel Ama Kofi Boa, Minister for Lands, who will do the support John Mahama for the third term. Deputy Minister John Dumelo is another. He will support John Mahama for a third term. James Agalga, incoming majority leader, he will also support John Mahama. And then you have Minta Akando. Minta Akando is green. He's going to support John Mahama for a third term if the president decides to do it. Mahama Yariga, Minister for Local Government, incoming, he's going to support John Mahama if John Mahama wants to do it. Lisbeth Ofosu-Adjare is the Minister for Trade. He's going to support John Mahama. And see who we put at the end. Iroko boss, Raymond Acha, he is deep in the pot. If John Mahama wants a third term, you can be sure Raymond Acha will be there. Are we done with the green? Let's shift to yellow if you can. Yes, great. So these are the yellows. And that's where the conversation gets interesting. The yellow undecided, they look like they're undecided, the yellow people. I begin with Presidential Advisor on Legal Affairs, Marietta Brew Apia-Opon. Our investigation suggests that he's asking questions. What's the third term about? When you hear people do that, that's yellow. Dominic Ayini, the Learned Attorney General and Minister of Justice, yellow. Third term, yellow. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, yellow. Third term, yellow. Who do we have here? Okay. And then I have Kofi Adams, Minister for Sports, also third term yellow. This is the Minister for Gender. Yes, Naamo Molate, and also we put her in yellow. Do you have more yellow so we can just go straight to the red? Now this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets very, very interesting, viewers. What's the time now? Okay, it's 24 minutes past 10 o'clock. We'll get there very soon. This is where it gets very interesting. Johnson Asiedu Nketia is a red, big red, huge, black, red. He's not interested in third term. Third term should not be canvassed. It's a bad decision. That's Asiedu Nketia, red. Augustus Guzitano is red. But Augustus Guzitano comes in with another explanation. Let's get back to this. Let me explain to the people about Guzi. Now, the cadres, and I've spoken to one or two of them. They're in Akwetia and Koforidua. I engage them every now and then to just understand what's happening. The cadres might be needed to support the third term agenda, but they have a request. Their request is that they will only support a third term agenda if Augustus Guzitano is going to become the running mate instead of Professor Jenano Opoku-Agyeman. That's very dicey. We are investigating that in a better way. By the time we come on Thursday or next week, I'll get you a full... Some of them want to talk. I really don't want to put them on TV yet. But some of the cadres who call me, they want to talk. That they will support that third term agenda. They tell me the so-called third term agenda. Only if the Mahama ticket is going to recognize the role of cadres in NDC by nominating Augustus Guzitano as the running mate for the third term agenda. So you have John Mahama 1, Guzitano 2. On that basis, they will support the agenda. Otherwise, they won't. Guzi himself is a constitutional Democrat, and he doesn't want a third term agenda. Mubarak Muntaka, the Interior Minister, is a red. He doesn't want third term agenda. Idrisu Haruna, the Education Minister, is a red. He will not support third term agenda. You have Minister for Agriculture, Eric Opoku. He's a red. He will not support any third term agenda. You have Minister for Works and Housing, Ibrahim, what's his name? Ahmed Ibrahim, Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim. Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim was the big story about the reshuffle. And everyone has been told that Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim was a casualty of the reshuffle because he is a campaign manager for the Johnson Asiedu Nketia ticket for 2028. And as Minister for Local Government, Ahmed Ibrahim is reported to have been working with MMDCs and the local government system and delivering that platform to the ever-popular Johnson Asiedu Nketia. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's the allegation that's been made against Ahmed Ibrahim. Now, get back on the TV so they can see Fifi Kwete. Now, Fifi Kwete is also there, and Fifi Kwete is a deep red for third term agenda. So this is where the matter is. We will continue to look into the NDC to tell you more about about what is happening in there with this matter. Is the video ready? Yeah. Okay. So we'll continue to look into the NDC and have a lot more to tell you. Let me go to the text messages now, and let's take a few of them before we come to the Asante Beko story. So I begin with Equia. Is that correct? Equia, what are people saying?
Thank you very much and good evening. Junior Akbar Tamale says Malik Basintali thinks he's still in campaign season. Which youth policies have they actually implemented? Is it the 133 policy or the poorly managed 1 million coders program or the youth education program? The NDC is a scam. Honorable Umar Kobo says, wow, Sir Paul, your classes today look like President Akufo-Addo. As for Asiedu Nketia, I think he is playing his cards well to bid to lead the NDC in 2028. Ohiniba Daniel says, interesting times ahead. Paul, if the former MD was an appointee of the previous NPP government, then the Attorney General and Yoko would by now have been running around trying to make it look like they committed to accountability. But now that it involves their own, I would be surprised if they fail to pursue this matter or those behind the whole power deal. Over to you, Fatih.
All right, thank you, Akia. So I have Seth here saying, the poor of our time, how do you have Muhammad Yaga from Banku with serious chieftaincy issues, which he has taken sizes? Master planner from Junior, from Kentampo says, President Muhammad should not even think of a third term. His current performance is nothing to write about. You promised Ghanaians heaven and earth, but today, not even hell is available for them. The only thing this government is good is at arresting NPP members. Nana also says that third term agenda is a non-starter and JDM is fully aware. Even JJ was a second-time president. Since then, the rest have followed suit. Ghana's building democracy would not allow for such a move. Those who tried changing this national constitutions caused a lot of problems in the past. Ghana first. Gina Agba says 2028 elections is going to be sweet because we will have a lot of surprises in its watch out. Samuel Afenyo says, your argument that DMB is ideal for us to take our issues to now is lame. We spoke to him while he was in power and he did nothing. The success of Mahama is what will determine 2028. Hadzi says, I found it very upsetting when I heard Malik Basintali saying that the NDC is the only political party in government that has fulfilled all promises that they make within a year in office, and those he was speaking to were chanting and clapping for him. Yeah, Fabi says Mr. Kwabena Donko was the then power minister when the negotiation of the purchase of AKSA energy power plants that Mr. Asante Beko has been convicted in the US for 30 years for bribery and paying $1 million to the power minister and others. Government has shown no commitment to allow its former appointees accused of corruption to jail, which an example is how the government did not show any good faith in the Madam Sedina Tamaklo appeal case for the court to acquit and discharge her, in addition to the numerous corruption cases against former appointees that the government has withdrawn. Lastly, coming from Shadrach, says, wow, Sir Paul, your classes today looks more like President Akufo-Addo. As for Asiedu Nketia, I think his playing cards will lead him to the NDC in 2028. All right, back to you, Paul.
Okay, we are ready now with the story. And those of you who want to get our book copies, I'm going to tell you a story from it, but there are copies now at the University of Ghana bookshop. We sent copies there yesterday. We had a nice time talking to the students who showed up there at the time. Efia Pokua, do you remember her? Efia Pokua is a journalist for Adom FM. She's been on social media these days fighting a particular battle that we can associate with. And we've showed some of the videos. Watch this video that she did, and we'll come back to the studio and talk about it. It's about Ghana and building Ghana, and a lot of things that are happening. And I was on the demonstration last Thursday about TikTokers being arrested, and I was delighted to see an amendment of the national security profile earlier today. Felix Kwame Ofosu sent a statement. Oh, you didn't have Felix Kwame Ofosu's picture in the thing. Oh my God. Kwame Ofosu sent a statement about the national security apparatus being amended. We believe that all of this is being done to get things better and get things right within this republic. But if Yapokwa complains about something that we clearly associate with, have a listen.
For more NDC media, apart from more NDC MPP media personally, I am a victim of his bully. Nana Bana must say, "Why me here? Nana ya brefo. I don't even care. So Nana ya brefo for the kind. Media me say I'm fighting for her because I want a secret. You find here. Nipa looks. Say ye boy, ye nyina ye permission ye begina Yakopon ni say Yakopon be say Yakeba ka Yakopon ye say Yakopon ye am say na iti na brother Samicho no nyomo kan nipa fun the cancel phone because this kitchen blogger you did at me one also who had the one in the yabia or did he mark him or bully ma and I've been led upon him and I've been led sorry or the constant master I go deal with this guy. They say and no they are so personal to me. It's so personal to me. I go deal with that. He go shock, he go over. The did not them. But this thing that he has done to me over the years, over 10 years, insult, bully, attack, abuse. Oh, he go over. He go over. He go over.
For the debut house on some munuso. Sa about 2 for guest house. A gentle for Nadiana Sawabro Nibatin. O 2 for to a D. Mudia Tao 2 for Tao, no more for new to form. Now, no more forward, you want to from Puntum Abrabum. A dear hin in a dinisano. Ah? A dear hin in a dinisano. A hinia a dear money pan what channel, and the same for Swaniso. Ye hine so hine, Obedia Niman Puntu Abrabum. Now, hine you, not President Aba. Now, Chia, my 2 years storm, you won't say, what's out to Wasayama Santama, Asantama he. The 2 for a Kufado Ayama will know a Santaman say, and there, Obumensia say a KVIP so a toilet so into a bar or the Nakonyaba. One limited power. Or 2 for you have limited power. You have limited power. Asante is nothing before these dwarfs. You are holding on to your kingdom and Nanaka, and then you say to me, womb, and then you say to my Kasama Bibia also. Asante has been limited. There's no power in your seat again. You have shown that you are a politician. You are not a king. You are a politician. Untumi kasanje woman. Untumi for politics in Tunchen and kanokre. And it's not in search of wishing in say. Assassinate your who you say. And conform by mention to any minimum galam saying now. Nankoso pamomo. Oma no to any minimum galam saying now. Who was asso? Nankoso pamomo. What 1 hour sesre. And I will sabo mochidom. Wo and a woman santimai say you 2 for 1 hour say santimai o tom or be among country a santimai said a wo 2 for now Queen Elizabeth san obu ni maya and kende kamo yare and kamoko England ko samo yare Queen Elizabeth awu no san and obu ni mai one kind of cruncher politician and kende yare bo mo mo be fa plan akotena brochire samo yare munjai sa dem boamu akonyana yeswa ye akonyana yedi ntamche na akonyana bebusa ye nsam ansa na yewu yo hene kwasia wo ye kwasia mpanyi pa awsa akonyana ku tutwene wonnim nyansa obedi na maame no matem kwasia bi na tamo kwa abrochire obetena ha di jantrafo twitwu kwasia taxi ene tamo ena oba na de ma akonywa diye wode wo jimi to wonum kankan so pro kwasia jimi wana nena ne god bi aguo no ma wonum kankan ti wote wana wonum kekawo abowa why wonum basa na nkwase akeka jimifo bi na moto no mososo woso me papa on jimi so be kasa sei unnim nyansa wanyini kwa nansi a wotwo ba ye se atamokwa abrochire abowa I don't want to Ghana show. The moment they say you are a leader, you speak like a god, you speak like a mad dog. Why when you come say be car on na Ghana and corruption, you took our money, you have not paid. A Kurobianka also that jail. Ko Samira, and your politics now full. And a Jimia, how can he get close to power? Mutum Banzani Samira, Makachi me say me ende bijina ho na mo sa nkwasiafo na mo gina ho tretre otumfo se otumfo yesime nkobo ye and otumfo ukobogo a me say otumfo be yimi ejam efise mo ye nwan munim nyansa maka me say mo sa nkwasiafo na mo hu mu asantefo no asante hini kura mbumu se mo ye asantefo efise mo ejimi ka se efiri no ba no enkyere se mo ye asantefo ma eni tira oba asantememu a nipa dodo mo asantememu no mo bumi eche mu bia mo titi social media say mo ya asantefo ekufo do nkwase ade a oye no Ghana eya hemfo akese mo Ghana titru otumfo a onkasa obedwo ma yenhu de ekufo ado eye ni tiro ekufo ado ojimi no ho mesi transma mekeka yi ko otumfo kamu miensa ankasa aban we kankwase ade o me nkomo jai but yesi otumfo ne politicians kasa wo dem politicians jimi vote na no kasa wo dem adentina wo so otumfo kwa the politicians kasa wo dem no Opama and the otumfo say to Asanteman Council embe make statement say nipa mu boat to Techiman South ye be se hu omu nyina nim ema mbra ne omu di ansa ne akoto aba 2024 kabo de be si wo Ghana but otumfo kasa wo dem why na na kasa nana ekufo adu gina otumfo enim time no je otumfo enim ko Ashanti Osha Dark eka say me ku garam say otumfo woni Asanteman Council na from Paul Boatin the reporter man na share the top and they respect otumfo he has no respect and this MPP and Ekufuado they are using otumfo tonka na utimu no baby out there say ponko na ohia ponko to end na nko wie ekurokiti obu hia Rolls Royce ekurokiti obu hia Rolls Royce you don't need Rolls Royce it ton Jaguar no ton Rolls Royce no ton eye Escalade na uchi no ton car na pomasi enim no never ko to scanning machine si wona so ye nipa otina kroma di atem ka kire say ababone ye John Mahama na abapa eye Kufuado uri Yesu eda Ghana fo udi atro etu Yesu so time na ye campaign o ka twie mu da ho dwerem twie mu da ho na no ka ende o ka slangs e kire nkonwa nana mentao mundi nukure udi nukura onyame beto nkwam mundi nukure ayampia kasachie ensama ka che Ekufuado hu nyina no abo besia che president bia owo ewiase Ekufuado
it go over you for everywhere. Me see that it's a personal project and I don't need a Asanteman and I'm to come and tell me if I don't need because me akasa me free Asanteman and if no be any it's a personal project for me to deal with this guy and I go deal with them because just the fact that me and Kasamia have been a victim me see payback if me say madam within a can say revenge is better is best served cold it go over and I go save them cold frozen nipa no on the pocket and the first no shut down I'm seeing because I was like we will not descend into the gutter then when I got all this revelation I was like nah the gutter they go day inside the gutter they go day inside they go deal with them then if I finish I will climb back
so long as I can tell her actually camera sin anim no church na omanpani kufo mpoa na John Dramani Mahama aso ante ye no obi etimi kai kasabo ahye yam Jeremiah 17:11 Bible say your friend who anya ko papa so no otuse ko radio obuti ko si anya no na so yeso
look at Kevin Taylor, when he comes into Ghana, who protects him? It's not national security. You know all the things Kevin Taylor says it said against Ekufuado. You know all the things Kevin Taylor said against Ekufuado and his appointees. Yet when he comes into Ghana, it's JM's national security that gives him protection. Please, so this thing, let's stop blowing hot and cold. It tells you that people are not happy.
So you see, there are 5 groups of people in Ghana that can decide the way the election go. And the NDC had lost all 5 of them. The number 1 are farmers. Right now, farmers don't want to hear anything NDC. They've lost all hope on NDC and most of their votes come from there. Number 2 are the youth. These are the ones that were promised 133. And now 133, the jobs have become markets. Number 3, nurses. They are the ones that were promised automatic posting. And all of a sudden, they are being whipped on the street. Number 4, teachers. These guys have to pay now to get their rejection. Or at least if you are going to be rejected, you should be told. But you have to pay to get a rejection. And the 5th group are the drivers. These guys, if they dare increase lorry fares, although the prices of fuel is up, these guys will be whipped on the streets. And these 5 groups, they always decide elections. NDC knows that they've lost them. And the main media can do nothing about it. They've become spectators. They just watch on. So the only place that the NDC gets the most criticism is on social media. So what they've decided to do is that anyone who criticizes them on social media, they go for them. And they are not going to stop. So for the MPP, they have to get the most robust social media group, because the NDC knows that they will lose the coming election and they will not stop. God help us all.
Welcome back to the show. Now, the protagonists are on my screen here, and I have Dr. Kwabena Donkor, the Minister for Power here in Ghana during the period under review. I have Asante Beku, who later became Managing Director of Tamale Refinery, had to be removed as a result of this matter. And Honorable Kwabena Hammond, my own great uncle, I love him so much. He is also here. Now, as usual, when a story breaks like that in Ghana, because of political polarization, we all try and look for whether it's NDC or MPP. Many years ago, there was a member of parliament who was arrested for drug trafficking. And when the story broke, it was more about, is he an NDC member or is he an MPP member? When recently Ohene Frimpong was detained at the Schiphol Amsterdam airport for allegations of romance, fraud and all that, the big conversation was who is he and where is he? Whereas NPP people said that Asante Frimpong is an independent candidate who associates with NDC. The NDC said that he is an MPP independent candidate because he comes from Asante Mampong, etc., etc. So when this story broke, that American court has actually convicted a Ghanaian who is reported to have paid bribes to the Ghanaian government. Everyone was dashing to the story to see which year it is, and MPP people were hugely relieved when they noticed that the allegations are about John Mahama's tenure. NDC people were concerned, and they are still concerned about what more is going to come. Our duty here tonight is just to give you a better explanation from our angle. I'm sure you've already heard the story and heard a lot about it. A better explanation from our angle on what's going to happen. In doing so, we have handpicked some of the commentary in international press. This story has gained a lot of currency in international press, I have to say. We have picked some of the commentary in international press to share with you. Now, the story is about a deal, which is a petroleum deal. So normally, when these companies come to, international companies are looking for business outside of America. It's a Turkish company, but it has a lot of American financing. And Goldman Sachs, the investment bank where Asante Bekun used to work, is heavily involved in the financing of the AKSA AXA. It's kind of tongue twisting a little bit. So it's AKSA AXA. So he was working for Goldman, and he was on the brief legitimately. But later on, Goldman found that Asante Bekun had used unorthodox means to secure the contracts for AXA. Now, in America, they completely frown upon what they call Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is captured where an American citizen of any dimension, whether it's a government official, whether it's a businessman, whether it's a lobbyist, whether it's a facilitator, that American citizen ought not to go into a foreign country and commit offenses like bribery for the purpose of securing contracts, even if those contracts were for an American company. Americans frown on that. So when they are caught with Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, it's taken very seriously. Asante Bekun was said to have paid bribe to Ghanaian officials to secure the contract for AXA. The story went on further to say that Asante Bekun paid the bribes to certain principals: government official 1, government official 2, government official 3. And government official 1 seems to be pointing to Dr. Kwabena Donko, who was the Minister for Power. The report is that Parliament had taken $46,000. The report also says that some members of Ghanaian officials had gone to Turkey on a trip to inspect the facility. They had been paid $5,000. The report also is that some $250,000 had been put aside to facilitate the whole deal. And altogether, the minister, who was the lead taker, received $1 million United States dollars. Many opinions everywhere. The emails that were sent, it called it something rain and all of that, were all very laughable and were said in the court to the embarrassment of Ghana. So the point is that this case has embarrassed Ghana and our government systems. And so everyone is interested. Pressure has now been put on the Attorney General's office and the OSP's office, both of whom were said to have helped the American FBI to arrive at the conclusions and to solidify the document of the prosecution before the jury in the court. Now, oh, is it gone? Okay. Now, the NDC have tried very hard to rope in MPP people. The NDC propaganda has tried very hard to rope in MPP people. One of the people they talk about is K.T. Hammond. They make the point that if people travel to Turkey, then K.T. Hammond, who was the ranking member, and viewers, if you don't understand Parliament, the committees in Parliament are usually chaired by an MP who belongs to the majority side. And then they have like an opposition in the committee, so that's the ranking member. So the views of the ranking member is always very important. The ranking member will carry the opposition's idea, and the chairman will carry so. So the chairman and the vice chairman, they have ranking member, and I believe they have a deputy ranking member. So that's what happened in this case. And they were trying to suggest that K.T. Hammond, as ranking member, must have participated in the conversations, and he must have been one of those who traveled. So I called my uncle, and I knew that K.T. Hammond, he doesn't do those things. I mean, whatever you can say about K.T. Hammond, he's not a bribe taker, he's not corrupt, he's not interested. You can say he has a quick temper, but that's fine. But he's not interested in those things. It's laughable to him, you know. I first met K.T. Hammond in 1998 in England when he was a very serious practicing barrister, and he was thoroughly enjoying his job on Chancery Lane. I really fell in love with him way back since then. In fact, he was introduced to me by Daniel Boche, the former general secretary of the party. So I've been following K.T. Hammond for quite a bit. If you want to get me to do something, you can tell K.T. Hammond, because most of the things he'll tell me, I'll do it. You know. So I called him up yesterday. And he picked the phone and was like, oh, friend, so what's my contract bribe? You know, that kind of thing. And he said, listen, Paul, no member of the committee traveled to Turkey. Not one. And I said, oh, wow. What are you talking about? He said, but of course, I'm telling you, no member of that committee, of which I was a ranking member, ever traveled to Turkey on AXA issues. Yes, we considered it. It came to the committee, but nobody traveled. What are they talking about? I said, so who must have traveled? I don't know. It must be the GridCo people and some of the officials. And then I asked him that, but if you travel and you get money, you get $5,000 for traveling, is it criminal? They said, well, he doesn't know. Because for members of parliament, when they are traveling, their per diems are paid by parliament. And they take their per diems in Ghana before they travel. So this does not even arise. They don't go there and collect money. And I was very happy with that. And I told friends of mine abroad who have been upset about, Ghanaians abroad who are friends of mine, who are upset about, Ghana, what is this cheap thing? Your members of parliament travel and they go and collect 5,000. I calmed them down. But Katie Hammond has told me how it works. Members of parliament always collect their per diems in Ghana from parliament. They don't collect it from businessman or some lobbyist or no. Our members of parliament collect their money from parliament and they go and do their work. I was very happy with that. And I was able to calm down quite a few Ghanaians who are very upset. You know, Ghanaians abroad, these things can annoy them quite a bit. So I calmed them down that Katie Hammond says that it doesn't work like that. So whoever went there must have been an official of, either those GridCo and that kind of thing. So yes, that's what Katie Hammond told me. But now, the big conversation is, the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, was a Deputy Attorney General in those days, and he must have known a lot about this deal in Parliament. And Kwabena Donkor is chairman of the board now. He's not in. Kwabena Donkor's deputy at power is the Honorable John Jinapor, who is also currently the Minister for Energy. Katie Hammond then told me that a letter was coming and that he's going to publish it. Interestingly, Kwabena Donkor has hired Katie Hammond as lawyer. So let's go look at some of the details we have here. And then the lawyer will join us on the screen and explain to us what is circumstantial evidence and how could this be unraveled. So we go to an article published by J. Kujo, and it's very long, so I'm going to read it in between, and it reads as follows. Ghana, the scandal is no longer an allegation. On August the 6th, 2026, a federal jury in Brooklyn convicted Asante Kweku Beko, former executive director at Goldman Sachs, of conspiracy to violate Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, violating the act and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The United States says Beko participated in a scheme involving more than 1 million in bribes to Ghanaian officials connected to the AXA Energy Emergency Power Project. Beko now awaits sentencing. Ghana should be awaiting names. He goes on. The numbers are staggering. $1 million United States dollars was discussed for Ghana's Minister of Power. $250,000 was discussed for his senior advisor. 5 Ghanaian officials traveled to Turkey at AXA's expense and allegedly received $5,000 each. Correspondents described $120,000 associated with PURC, $20,000 for GridCo engineers, $20,000 for 3 ministry officials called the MOP girls. That's sleazy, isn't it? What is MOP girls? $25,000 for an 8-person power team and approximately $46,000 paid, they said, to members of parliament. These were not anonymous institutions. People occupied those offices. So let us begin lifting the veil. The senior Ghanaian official is readily identifiable from the public record as Dr. Kwabena Donkor, the Minister for Power. The strongest documentary match for Ghana Official 1 is Francis W.K. Jatta, technical advisor to the minister. His documented functions closely resemble those attributed by the American prosecutors to the advisor who communicated the minister's concerns, helped organize the Turkey inspection, and circulated the March 11 emergency project team. Ghana Official 2 remains less certain. John Abdullahi Jinapor, then Deputy Minister for Power, is presently the strongest candidate in my reconstruction. William Oreku-Edu, also Deputy Minister, remains within the relevant universe. Neither should be labeled Ghana Official 2 until documentary evidence settles it, An investigator must unveil people, not invent them. The Turkish energy company Aksa Energy, the Turkish holding company was Kazanchi Holding. The American financial institution was Goldman Sachs. The presidential relative remains publicly unresolved. Co-conspirator 1 was a Ghanaian director of Ghana Consulting Company 1. Co-conspirator 4 was a Ghanaian and United States permanent resident who was a principal of both the Ghana consulting companies. Co-conspirator 2 and 3 were senior Turkish AXA executives. The corporate leadership universe includes Cunayat Ugun and Nessim Ibrahima Klogo. Also, although the public material does not conclusively assign either man to a particular pseudonym. Then comes Parliament. The recomposed Mines and Energy Committee was chaired by Amadou Bukari Sorogo, now chairman of the National Fertilizer Council, used to be member of Parliament for Medina, I have to add, and Adam Mutawakilu, now managing director of the Ghana Water Company Limited. He was the vice chairman. Kobna Tahiru Hammond, my uncle, former MP for Adansia Sokwa and former Trade and Industry Minister, was the ranking member, and Edward Enin, former MP for Boise East, as the deputy ranking member. The remaining members were Mahamaturi Nasa, who later remained MP for Ayawasu East until his death in January 2026, etc., etc. He goes on to mention the names of all the people involved. And then he says, these are not 18 accused MPs. They are the parliamentary investigative universe against which the Department of Justice's $46,000 must be tested. Some remain politically active, some occupy important positions, some have left parliament, some have actually, unfortunately, died. Time does not erase the evidentiary question. It makes reconstruction more urgent. Who attended the relevant proceedings? Who dealt with the promoters? Who appears in Beko's communications? Which MPs, if any, intersect with the money trail? Then comes perhaps the most consequential document Ghana has yet to produce publicly. On March 11, 2015, Ghana Official 1 circulated an emergency projects team comprising representatives of agencies responsible for completing tasks necessary for AXA. Ghana Official 2 was on that team. Later, the bribery correspondence describes an A-person power team with Ministry of Power and ECG representatives considered particularly important. Were they the same people? If so, one document could unlock several identities simultaneously. The institutional trail reaches the Energy Commission, GRADECO, PURC, ECG, and VRA. The contemporary leadership and technical universe includes Alfred Ofosu-Ahenkra, William Amuna, Samuel Kojo Sapon, Emmanuel K. Annan, Robert Dwamena, Kek Kofi, and senior GRADECO engineers including Samuel Kofi, Bernard Mode, Eric Asare, Norbert Anku, and Suraj Amadou. When we were doing this story, viewers, and we mentioned these names, and some people said, oh, but these are not juicy names. We want the real fishes. What is Robert Dwamena was ECGMD. He's a Presbyterian man. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want matter for himself. He will never be interested in that. Why are we talking about Robert Dwamena and Amuna? Let's deal with the real big players in the power sector. Ghana was not standing outside this prosecution waiting for the August verdict. The Office of the Special Prosecutor was already inside the investigation. Department of Justice says it provided significant assistance to the American prosecution, while the Attorney General's International Cooperation Unit performed its international cooperation role. Ghana, therefore, had an institutional connection to this prosecution before the Brooklyn jury returned its verdict. The ministry can produce the March 11 emergency project team. GRADECO can identify its engineers. ECG can identify its representatives. PURC can reconstruct its regulatory chain. Immigration records can identify the 5 Turkey travelers. Parliament can determine which MPs intersect with the $46,000 company records can identify the people behind Ghana consulting companies. Banks can identify account owners, signatories, transfers, withdrawals, and beneficiaries. America can remove whatever pseudonyms remain. None of this requires partisan theater, and that's very important. None of this, he says, requires partisan theater. The NDC must not protect yesterday's officials because they belong to its political family. The MPP cannot suddenly discover outrage after governing for 8 years following the public emergence of Beko's allegation. Neither party should determine where the evidence stops. A foreign country has prosecuted a man for corrupting our public institutions. America has convicted the payer. The alliances are beginning to fall. The documents exist. The institutions know their people. Now, Ghana must answer the only question that matters. Who collected the cash? Who embarrassed the republic? Who turned our image upside down? And who did it? Kwabena Donkor is the first to answer that question. In a letter that was published yesterday by Cavendish Chambers, they write for Kwabena Donkor. He is the name that was mentioned as the government official one, and he is the first to speak about it. What does Kwabena Donkor say? Kwabena Donkor says, through his lawyers, and interestingly, as I said, his lawyer is K.T. Hammond. Is that not interesting? I think that's very interesting. But let's look at it. We act, he says, on the instructions of our client, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, whose name has come up to be associated with the above matters and which are doing the rounds on various social media platforms. Our client instructs us in very crystal clear language that he has absolutely no knowledge about the allegations linked to him. He completely and emphatically denies any knowledge of a request or demand for any money as alleged. Our client accepts that he was the relevant minister at the time. Material. This is a matter of public record. That Kwabena Donkor was the minister. It's a matter of public record, they say. Number 4, our client also admits that the state, through his then ministry, the Ministry of Power, negotiated with Aska Energy for the generation of electric power in Ghana during the relevance period. This was at the time when the country was going through the worst phase of what came to be termed as doomsday. It was a time of extreme power emergency when the country experienced extreme load shedding. He further instructs us that during the course of this negotiation, a technical team from all the electric power stakeholders in the country was sent to Istanbul, Turkey, to inspect the equipment which was to generate the required electricity in Ghana. This was and is regular practice of pre-shipment inspection. According to our client, at no point in the course of this negotiation did he once set eyes on the said Mr. Asante Beko, nor has he seen him since. In very plain language, our client states very strongly and unambiguously that he has never met the said Mr. Asante Beko all his life. He never discussed any personal benefits of any value whatsoever with Mr. Asante Beko or any other person for that matter. He never authorized any person to discuss any such matter on his behalf. He never received any money in any denomination or any personal benefit of any value from Asante Beko or any other person. Any person or persons who may have made any such criminal demand in his name did so for that person or person's own benefit. Our client does not understand that any evidence was led in the U.S. trial which linked him with demanding or receiving any money, cedis or dollars or anything of value to him personally. He does not accept that evidence that some other person or persons claimed that they required money from their principals for the benefit of senior Ghanaian official or any other title holder metamorphosed into any evidence of criminality or wrongdoing, etc., etc., etc. So, is it possible that Asante Beko came to Ghana to negotiate these things and never met with the minister? That's what the minister is saying. That's really what Kwabena Donkor's document is saying. And I believe that K.T. Hammond from Cavendish Chambers believes him. That Asante Beko came to Ghana many, many times, negotiating to have AXA have a power plant in an emergency situation. The minister responsible, who was also a member of parliament, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, never had any meeting with Asante Beko. Never. Doesn't know him. Hasn't seen him. Asante Beko was representing Goldman, who is one of the financiers of AXA, but he was not expected to pay bribes. Asante Beko has been convicted for paying bribes. And the most important person, the principal, the minister, says that I never had any meeting with Asante Beko. So what are the questions for Kwabena Donkor to answer? Who and whom did he meet during the process of this negotiation? Did he go to Istanbul? Who did he meet? Or did he meet Asante Beko, but he didn't know that the man is called Asante Beko? Maybe they have a nickname for Asante Beko, so they call him Bomba. Yeah, that happens. Bomba. So did he meet Bomba? If he met Bomba, then he met Asante Beko. Or some other nickname. So that has to be clarified. Did the minister meet Turkish officials? Does he remember the people that he met? In any case, if the minister never met Asante Beko, is it legally impossible for a circumstantial evidence to trace a certain 1 million to him in spite of the fact that he never met with Asante Beko? Could they have been creating a deliberate alibi so that they decide that we should never meet because they know that this day may come? Let me now invite the lawyer in. Apriko will now give us some more details on what can happen and what cannot happen. All right. So let's begin with the innocence that Kwabena Donkor is claiming. He says he never ever met Asante Beko. If Kwabena Donkor were to stand in the court and tell the court and the jury that the person you are talking about, I've never seen him before, will that in and of itself exonerate him?
The thing is, for criminal trials, the burden is on the prosecution. When we say the burden is on the prosecution, it means that the prosecution has the responsibility of proving beyond reasonable doubts that an individual is guilty of an offense. And so merely, if he comes merely saying or solely based on the statements that Asante Beko claims that Kwabena Donkor was paid bribes, consequently, it automatically means that he received the bribes. That would be insufficient to show that indeed he received the bribes.
But if Kwabena Donkor says, I don't know him, does it end there? Will he be discharged?
That's what I'm saying, that it's not a question of Kwabena Donkor saying that I don't know him. It's a question of, can the prosecution prove that the money was paid to Kwabena Donkor and that Kwabena Donkor took the money? And so if he says...
But can you take money from somebody that you've never met?
Well, there are, as I said, so there are, I mean, as you said, there are ways you can do aliases, some offshore accounts and whatever. I'm not really privy to those specific details. But in any case, people use other people's names to take bribes all the time. At times you hear that Judge A is taking bribes. You go and realize that it's not the judge, but people are using the name of the judge to take bribes. So there's a possibility.
Is that not also people use the name of the bribe of anybody to take a bribe, but they actually send the money to the person?
So that's a possibility. But right now, because we are talking about two scenarios, you see how there's a flip side where the scenario you're talking about is valid. And the scenario I'm also talking about is also valid. So you see that on both sides, there's doubts as to whether or not one account is sufficient enough to convict him.
But could Asante Beko have negotiated this for Goldman, which was an important player, and never met the minister over a period of 11, 12, 14 months? Is that possible?
It's possible.
Never met the minister that is the minister in charge of power who is going to sign the deal.
Well, they may have had their ways, they did things, but as I said, it's not probable that would have happened. I mean,
it's more improbable.
It's more improbable. More particularly so, one, if you look at the amount of money involved. Two, this was, if you place it in context, this was an energy crisis.
Yeah.
Who was the one responsible for fixing the energy crisis?
Donkor.
Exactly.
Would you come and do a deal without meeting him?
Exactly. And how were the mechanics going to be? Because note that he was not acting, it's not as if he just got up and automatically said
he's acting for such an important company as Goldman.
Exactly. So he was acting in an official capacity.
Absolutely.
So there is a real likelihood that as he's acting in an official capacity, he was also going to meet someone acting in an official capacity, i.e. Minister for Power.
But will Goldman even accept it that you went to Ghana and you come and tell them I didn't meet the minister for several months? And that I probably met the deputy minister? or I met them. Even if you met the president, often the president will send you to the minister. Or the president will call the minister and say that, look, these people are here. You met the chief of staff. The minister is such an important part of it. It's a pivotal part of it that you can't go around him. And Comrade Donko's letter doesn't tell us who and who he met.
So the story is, or the thing is, so long as he was acting in his official capacity, yes, there may have been some money we cannot tell. But so long as he was acting in an official capacity, there was a real likelihood. It is more probable than improbable that he was supposed to have met the Minister for Power. Supposed, and the key word is supposed to have.
Okay, so if Asante Beku says today that Comrade Donko, don't say that. I met you. We met in your office. We met in Istanbul.
Are there minutes of the meeting?
That's
Are
the
there
thing.
witnesses of the meeting?
Yeah, that's the
and
point.
that's why I was saying that it's possible that maybe it's some deal somewhere that
they agreed on.
Say you didn't dean. I don't know if you understand.
But he was responsible for putting the team together. They went to Turkey. He probably didn't know that they got $5,000, whatever. He was a member of parliament. The deal was approved by parliament, and he will do all that. He will stand in parliament and brief the committee. He will do all that, and he doesn't know that there was an Asante Beko involved.
So this is where issues of circumstantial evidence comes in. So circumstantial evidence basically is the using of, normally we are not there when the offense is committed. Unless maybe I'm stabbing you and then we are all watching. Most of the times, we are not there. So we use, or the courts would use, strands of related materials.
But they have emails where they said that emails were exchanged between them.
Yeah, so
Comrade Donko can deny that as well, that I didn't see any email?
That would be hard. If it's an email that says that we exchanged correspondence between my office and you.
But he can say that it's created. I mean, these days digital, they can create created. It's not me. Or even if you produce minutes of a meeting, you say, no, I don't remember.
Oh yeah, that one. It's
he can say, I don't remember. I wasn't. I was in my office. I don't remember anybody like this.
So the best thing is the way the money was transferred. Was it transferred via?
I'm not sure it's bank.
Physical. So those are the questions.
It will not be bank.
Will it be physical? Will it be bank? Will it be crypto? Will it be? So it is those things that will then create a relatively stronger.
But Americans have all that information by now to get to a conviction of a jury.
Yes,
they probably have all that information.
They convicted him for paying bribes. They didn't convict him for paying bribes to K.T. Hammond and Comrade Donko. So the burden
no, they mentioned that it was arranged.
Yes, it was arranged. That's what I'm saying, that the burden of proof in that instance was to show that he paid bribes.
But he paid it to someone.
He paid it to someone. But as I said, right now, if you are coming before the Ghanaian courts, merely saying that the bribes were paid to an individual is insufficient. They obviously said the statements that you read earlier show that the Attorney General's International Cooperation Office is cooperating with whoever to get the evidence. If they are able to get the evidence and put it before a Ghanaian court, then we can be getting somewhere.
Okay, but if he paid bribes in the chain of the prosecution's work, if he paid bribes, don't they see the destination of the bribes to conclude that he paid bribes?
They will see the destination of the bribes.
So the destination of the bribe has gone to somebody.
Yes.
Don't they find evidence of that? Because otherwise he can just go to the court and say, I paid bribes to Paul Adomoshe, and then they convict him.
Yeah, but you see,
don't they show a lot more than that?
So your case is that there is a real likelihood that there is hardcore evidence.
Most likely, I'm guessing, but I believe most likely
hardcore
to convince the jury that he paid bribes.
But the thing is that those matters are proceedings that happen before that court. All the strains and strands of evidence that was based upon which a conviction was secured for him must therefore be brought before the Ghanaian court and evaluated in light of our law before indeed a conviction can be made here.
I get it.
Because there is also a possibility that they indeed may have met formally in formal circumstances, but when it came to the payment of bribes,
Donko says, I've never seen him, I've never met him. That's what the statement says. Till today, he doesn't know him. He didn't meet him then. He hasn't met him now.
I am taking him at his best. As hypothetically, I'm not saying I'm taking him at his best. That we are assuming we are before a court where we are discussing. Let's just say, for argument's sake, they met. Them meeting a negotiation for whatever power generation is also fundamentally different from the purposes of paying bribe. We may meet as a result of a contract.
I get that, but Comrade Donko says emphatically that whether formal or informal, I've never met him and I still don't know him. but this is the man who's been convicted for dealing with me with bribes, but I don't know him. And also, the $5,000 people.
Yes.
They haven't been, yeah. And Kwabena Donko's statement also says something that he was never invited to the court. Is it part of is it a jurisdictional issue that they didn't want to talk to him? Or they had sufficient evidence?
Yes. So if they have sufficient evidence to show, more particularly so a paper trail, other witnesses, then there is no need for them to get the co-conspirator
who is in a separate jurisdiction.
In a separate jurisdiction. In fact, most of the times, if two people come together to commit an offense and we have sufficient evidence to go after them, there's no need. In fact, that's why a lot of people have a problem with the current practice of procuring one witness to testify against the other. If your case is good and you can go after them, you go after them. But attempting to procure one person to come and be called and to testify,
but it's allowed. It's not illegal.
It's not illegal. It's allowed. That's what I'm saying. But as you have built your case as a prosecutor and you have sufficient evidence to indeed prosecute the person and secure a conviction, then that certainly means that the court was satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that he was guilty. There was no need to have.
So what value should we place on Kwabena Donko's letter?
Right now is a haneha, because we cannot also make a conclusive statement as a result of the fact that all those pieces of evidence, as I was saying, has to be brought before a Ghanaian court and evaluated, because there are several scenarios that may have happened as regards issues of collection of money, whether the account was received, was it a fixer, who did it, because there's a possibility that he may have said that he was the person he met who may have arranged the deal legitimately. The person may have said he's working for Kwabena Donko without Kwabena Donko's approval or anything of the sort. So there are various ways that this thing may be looked at that we cannot make that conclusive determination yet. However, so long as a court has been able to convict someone beyond reasonable doubt, then there is a possibility that, in fact, not even a mere possibility, a high probability that there was sufficient evidence to secure a conviction. More particularly so in a democratic, dispensation in the United States that has the sort of Anglo-Saxon tradition where you are innocent to proving guilty. So the burden more is on the state as opposed to you.
And discharging that burden includes landing the bribe at a destination.
Yeah. At a point.
And evidence of that.
Evidence of receipt of the money. Because merely putting money at Good Evening Ghana Studios does not necessarily mean bribe has been paid.
So you have to trace the money to its destination.
Yeah, so there's a bribe
also
and a bribee.
To also be able to say that the purpose of the money was to secure a contract, and then you have then settled the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So they're not just going to secure. They're not just going to give conclusive evidence on Beko paying, but Beko paying to who he paid it to and the purpose for which the money was paid. All of these three must be conclusive to come to the conclusion that Beko is convicted. Is that not so?
Yes. And once that is also settled, that will then require, or that will then mean that there's a relatively high chance that if the pieces of evidence links to Kwabena Donko, then he'd be found guilty before a Ghanaian court. More particularly so when it is proven before a Ghanaian court. And what a lot of people have to understand that is that the mere case as settled before the court in the United States does not mean an automatic conviction for
So there has to be a trial.
So there has to be a trial in Ghana, pursuant to our laws, our Act 30.
So you mean we can't just pick somebody and put them in jail?
In fact,
based on an American court,
exactly.
There has to be a trial.
It has to be a trial. In fact, they also have to look for a specific charge, a specific offense, which this falls under. So it can become under using of public office for private gain. That's if because
we have enough.
It was a public office. Yeah. So there are offenses that you'd have to be charged under our jurisdiction before a Ghanaian.
But taking bribe is okay. It's an offense.
It is an offense, but that's what I'm saying. That the mere conviction of person A
doesn't mean you can just pick people.
Does not mean you can just pick up and say. So they have to also charge him formally. So there has to be investigations. Investigations have to be concluded or have to reach an advanced stage to be able to see that we can sustain a charge. Then the charges will be filed. Abuse of public office, using of public office for private gain, bribery, so on and so forth. Bribery of a public officer, receipt of bribe, so on and so forth. And then the procedure pursuant to Act 30 would be complied with before a conviction will be secured, whether or not he indeed is guilty of collecting the said sums.
Okay, let's. We're going to do other stories, but it's 21 past 11. Let's just take some social media commentary and then we'll wrap it up. Thursday we'll have a big show here as well. So, who should I start with, please? Let me start with you, Ikuya. What are people saying?
Thank you very much, Paul. This is coming from Yao February. He says, "How will the government arrest, prosecute, and jail all members of the NDC who have been cited in this bribery case, when even a corruption case against an individual, the government does not show any commitment to prosecuting and securing a conviction? In this case, the government can combine the evidence and information from the US with the circumstantial evidence and to prosecute. If the evidence supports it, secure convictions against those cited. Mr. Asante Beku has been convicted in the US for his role in facilitating and paying bribes to these Ghanaians in connection with the negotiation of the purchase of the AXA power plant. So if the US has evidence sufficient to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Mr. Asante Beku indeed paid the bribes, then Ghanaians expect the same deductions from the circumstantial evidences used to convict Chairman Wontumi to be applied in establishing the guilt of those cited in this case." Coming from Schiffman Ose, he says, "Paul, is it not strange that the Honorable Attorney General has not organized a press briefing on this Asante Beku bribery case? Or is it because it is implicating some of the NDC personalities? Interesting times ahead. I thank God Ghanaians are not robots and can read between the lines. Ghana under the NDC administration. It is well." Coming from Nano Owusu, he says, "Paul, I'm beginning to understand why a lot of people were saying that the Dumso was a man-made and a way to rip us off. Well, the scandal has opened the floodgates for a national inquiry into who did what, how the take or pay contracts were signed, and who was behind those companies. Any nollie prosequa or a 60-40 backroom deal would not be entertained by the good people of Ghana." Osetutu says, "Great man of God, people need to stop pushing the president for a third term. The constitution is very clear on terms limits, and changing this will not help the country. The president has already rejected this idea multiple times. Even if he is quietly supporting it behind the scenes, he needs to put a stop to it. If we go down this path, Ghana will be the ultimate loser. God bless you and your great team, Apostle Paul." And finally, coming from Chris Adu, he says, "Paul, this third-term agenda is being spearheaded by the allies of the president. They know that if Mahama's political era comes to an end, it will also be an end to their political careers, both within the NDC and in the country as a whole. That is why they are pushing this bogus mission. This agenda will never happen in the country. We shall resist it at all costs." What do you have for us, Fatih?
All right, thank you, Akia. So I have Kwesi Blankson here saying, "Paul, indeed you are doing something good, meaningful by educating us on issues you and your producers are doing so well." Akosia Champon says, "In the court documents mentioned, is made of an intermediary who is described as a close relative of a high government official. This intermediary set up a cell company through which most of the bribes were paid through, apart from what the Asante Beku paid out of the packets. The US SEC and the DOJ have details of the bank documents and email trials." Manaya says, "Airbus had all these similarities, yet the OSP gave us no successful outcomes. We are doomed." And Ken Mensa says, "Paul used most of his time to show videos and tag issues." Also coming from Alidi Zachary says, "The gentleman who spoke in his car has spoken well, and I partly agree with some of the assertions he made. However, I vehemently disagree with him saying the NDC knows it is losing the upcoming 2028 general elections. That can't be true. The NDC party will certainly win the election." And also says, "I'm beginning to understand why a lot of people were saying that Dumso was man-made and a way to rip us all. Well, this scandal has opened the floodgates for a national inquiry into who did that and who did what, how to take or pay contracts were signed, who are behind those companies, and a whole lot. Sami Boache says, I hope you have that the judge in Edubuahin's case says, with or without lawyer, the accused will be cross-examined coming August 17. How is it a crime that a lawyer is unavailable during the legal vacation? This is very serious, Paul. All right, back to you, Paul.
Okay, viewers, thank you very much for keeping an eye on us and joining us for the show tonight. Sorry we had a few hiccups. We'll repair them and get back to you and put our videos together. Thursday, we'll be here with another edition of the program. It's always Good Evening Ghana on Metro TV. Thanks for watching and good night.